All right, welcome back to another day. We just had an amazing final session. As you can see, Josh, our producer and swim coach, is in the house. He's going to be co-hosting today. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, right? Some pretty good swims tonight. What did you think? What was your favorite swim of the night? Honestly, what did you like the most?
I was enjoying the semifinals of the 50 freeze.
You're always a 50 free kind of person. You're like a
well,
short distance sprinter.
well, no, I was a butterflyer, so the butterflies were a blast to watch too, and they were like finals. So I mean, that was great. But just watching those guys swim that freestyle and how much freestyle has changed since I was an active swimmer.
You mean
You
all
know,
that like 8 years ago?
it's been longer than that.
Hasn't been as long as me being in swimming.
Yeah,
It's
but
changed an awful lot there.
it's really the events I used to swim. It's very fun to see how it's changed and how much faster those events have gotten, because those are kind of the only ones I have a context for.
Right, of course.
Like I know what Phelps was swimming in 08 and 12 and 04, you
Right.
know? So watching these guys beat those times, like 4 or 5 people beating the times that won the gold medal in like 04,
Right.
it's fun.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, every year we're getting faster and faster. It's a lot of fun. And this is like probably not the most coach moment that ever will come out on this podcast, but you know, the one thing that really impressed me with the 50 free, and I've never really noticed it before, but they got down on the level of the swimmers, and they're almost in a wave pool at that point. The wave coming off the back and then
Oh
going
yeah,
back
that
and
angle
forth
is
was
cool.
hitting them, and they were just kind of leaning and going with it. And I mean, I've seen it before. I've seen that, up close, but I hadn't really impacted my mind or really made me
Yeah.
think about it until today, which was absolutely crazy. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I liked all the races. I'm just going to take that line and say they were all stellar. I was impressed with Dressel in the 50 free, and we'll get to that in
Yes.
a little bit. Absolutely great. But let's start with the women's 200 butterfly. All
Okay.
right. So this is going to be a finals that came in. And obviously, we had Summer McIntosh from Canada coming in first. She went
Mm-hmm.
2:03:03. That's a drop. Are you ready for this? Of 1.84 seconds from her
And an Olympic
semifinal.
record.
And yeah, it's an Olympic record as well. Reagan Smith goes 2:03:84. I think that's an American record. As she comes in, she dropped almost about 1.5 seconds, almost 2 seconds there, which is really great to see. And then Alex Shekel came in sixth for the United States, with Zhang coming in third.
Yeah.
Overall, it was really amazing to see. And this is going to be the start of a theme that has come from the last couple of episodes and is going to be a theme throughout tonight, which is, wow, look at that third turn. I think we should have a
Yeah.
segment that's just called, wow, look at that third turn. Because it's crazy how we're coming off the wall. And you heard Rowdy Gaines say, here she comes, here she comes, here she comes.
Yep.
And I think that's where he had the call. Yeah, Summer McIntosh had 4 strokes before, Reagan Smith came up. Absolutely great underwaters. The 5th stroke that struck again.
Mm-hmm. I think our underwaters later in the races across the board for Americans have been fantastic. Like
Yes.
at the third turn, and I don't understand why. And maybe you can tell me this: why their underwaters on the later turns look better than the early turns.
Okay. Here's my honest opinion. I think Michael Phelps.
Really?
I think for so many years, he came off the 200 freestyle deeper than everybody else and came up better than everybody else and came up ahead. And then
Yeah.
Lochte did the exact same thing. It's almost became all of the American swimmers are watching him going, okay, that's what I need to do off the third turn. That's exactly where I need to be. And so I think the emphasis from Phelps and seeing what he can do really powered through. And then you have Marchand, who's doing it too, but who's his coach? Bob Bowman. Right. And so he's teaching it as well. And I think it's just become a calling card for the US as that third turn. But coming off of every wall, we're looking pretty good. I wish we could finish a little bit better in
Yeah.
the last 15. I think we're fading a little bit there. But when we're on and we're having a good race, that third turn seems to be the key in the 200s. 100%.
So let me ask you this then. Is
Okay.
that reason with going deeper on the later turns? Is that why people are saying that the pool isn't deep enough and it's a slower pool?
No, I mean, yeah, okay. So I kind of addressed this yesterday when I was, flying solo, as it were. I think Okay, so let's do a little history lesson here. The
Okay.
deepest pool up until I think Tokyo, but I think the deepest pool might have been the Seoul Korea pool. One of my head coaches that I had before at Rose Bowl swam in Olympic finals there in the 200 IM, and he said it was 10 feet deep. And so you had this feeling of we're flying, and that's the first time that the pool depth was really taken into consideration. And there was a bunch of world records broken there. And so
Okay.
since then, there's been a lot of science, and around 8 feet 2 inches is exactly where we want to be for a great pool. And this is 7 feet 2 inches, thereabouts, give or take. I
Okay.
don't know
Yeah,
the
yeah.
exact number, but it's around 7 foot. So what's happening is a lot of people are saying that feeling of flying is gone. You feel like it's a little bit off as far as how deep you can go. And I think that I think that it is a little bit of a slower pull. And I think again, that's making it hard to calculate how fast you need to go.
Yeah.
Which the racers, the ones that are just no hold bars, I'm going after it, a Tori Husk, as it were, where she's going to get out fast, she's going to stay, and she's going to fight for it, are going to have a better chance than somebody who's a little bit more calculated, who's saying, well, I need to go out about this percentage going out or this time going out. You can't judge that as easily. And so I
Yeah.
think that if you're a fighter, if you're one that just kind of goes all in, you're going to have a better time at this pool. But I think that's what everybody's talking about.
Yeah, and I brought that up because especially with this 200-meter butterfly, the all the top women or top all the podium finishers cut time. Like they had their best race.
Right.
So they and the people that aren't they're saying it's not a fast pool aren't having great races to begin with eh, because and I'm wondering and I feel like if you have your strategy intact, the depth of the pool really doesn't matter as much.
No, I mean you can still swim fast. Obviously, there's been a couple of world records, and
Yeah.
I think Rowdy Gaines is right. The 200 IM for the men is going to fall. I think Marchand's going to go after it and get it. I think Foster is going to be right there.
I'm excited about that race.
That's going to be a great race, and we'll get into that just a little bit. But I mean, yeah, I think that if you're going to swim fast, you're going to swim fast. Like you said, the top 3 times for this event dropped time from their semifinals to here. The 4 through 8 added time.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it's going and maybe that's because they went after it and they knew they had to go out fast. You know, sometimes you overswim the front half because you know you've got to come back in the back half, or you're overswimming because you want to go out. I would rather come in 8th and go after the medal than not go after it, have my best time, become in 6th, and never really put myself in the race. And we're going to talk
Yeah.
about that with the 200 backstroke right now.
Okay.
So let's move to the 200 backstroke because that kind of sets up what I want to talk about there.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about something that's a little bit unlike what they said in the in the cast today about the 15-meter line being an unknown rule that we have.
Yeah.
There's something that we like. I don't understand that. 15-meter mark, we know that you have to come up. Your head has to break the surface before the 15-meter mark. And I do think that in one of the heats of the women's 200 backstroke, the Canadian went too far. Go back and watch it. I think she's lane 3. And you can
Okay.
see that. Or no, I'm sorry, lane 6. Lane 6 or 7. She's up on the top of the screen. I thought that's where they were going to bring it up, but they didn't bring it up there. So we know the 15-meter, but there is something. Have you ever heard of a TV swim?
No.
Okay, so this is something I learned back in when I was in LA. We were watching film, and sometimes you'll have swimmers who are not going to make the final, or is not going to go very. They're in the final or the semifinals, and they're not going to really vie for it. Sometimes they'll get out there so that the broadcaster goes, "Well, there goes Matt Graham. Wow, he's really after it today." And it's called a TV swim. It's where you get a little bit of the TV
Ah.
episode, so your families and friends can see you.
Yeah. Okay.
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 So it's kind of like it's a pejorative, it's not a nice thing to say necessarily, but people do it. It's the Tour de France I was watching. They'll get certain teams out in the front so they can be mentioned and their sponsors can be mentioned. So you can see it in other sports as well. I thought 100% that Christo in Greek in the second outside lane, so I think he was in lane 7, he took off so fast. I was like, this is a TV swim. Like he was so far ahead of everybody else. He went out so fast. And then it's the second 50 and he's holding on to it. Then it's the
Yeah.
third 50 and he turns and he goes first into the turn. He comes out, ends up being a silver medalist. So
Yeah.
he knew something that we didn't know, but the whole time for the first time, they're like, out way too fast. He's coming back. This is a TV swim.
Mm-hmm. Not
So
I was impressed with the top three, because I'm not as plugged into the international world of swimming as other people. I was not expecting these three to medal at all. I mean, first time a Hungarian swimmer had won this race in over 20 years.
right, but you have a guy named Che. And Che was an Olympic Hungarian swimmer. Now, I lived in Hungary for about a year and a half. And so I know a little bit more about that. But he was an IMer. If you look back, Phelps and Lochte and Chet were the three that were
Yes, yes,
going
yes.
after the 400 IM, the 200 IM, the 200 butterfly. He could swim
Mm-hmm.
breaststroke. He had it all. And then you go back, the person that created the wave motion breaststroke, Josef Nagy, he's from Hungary. So, and then they
Oh,
have unbelievable canoeing, they have unbelievable water polo. They are a swimming country. And so it doesn't surprise me that somebody from Hungary is there. It was the Greek and the Swiss.
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
the one from Switzerland, I didn't know all that well. And then the Greece doesn't get a lot of medals in swimming at all. And so it was kind of like this hodgepodge of non-favorites that went up there. But you look, Kos has the number one time in the world this year. Christo came out of nowhere. Midyokov, he comes in. He might have been a Russian swimmer that defected whenever he couldn't get in. I'm not sure. I'm not going to spread that rumor too far and wide, but that's what it sounds like, just like the French and some other people. But nonetheless, it was a great race. Again, they're continuing to drop time.
yeah,
Tied for fourth down to second, which is really good. And I think that having that kind of swim for Christo was absolutely amazing. And then the other thing I want you to look at, if you're go back and watch the race on Peacock, is the tempo change by Kos with 10 yards to go. With 10 yards to go, I mean, Christo is already turning it over. He's giving it everything he's got. He knows he's dying.
yeah.
He's praying at that moment, just get to the wall, get to the wall, get to the wall, get to the wall. And then you see Kos being controlled, gets to around the 10-meter mark, and then he goes. And
Mm-hmm.
you can see the turnover happen, no slipping at all, absolutely gets into the wall. And that's what wins it for him. He closes
Yeah,
it with like 8 meters to go, I think was the call, and absolutely out of his mind. So, I mean, that was great and fun to see. And again, you can learn a lot off of that. Sometimes you just need to get out fast to give yourself a chance. And I mean, Christo didn't, I think he saved it up for the final, honestly.
yeah,
And I think that he
yeah.
did a really good job there.
And then our boy Keaton Jones, he got sixth, fifth.
He got fifth. He
Yeah,
came
yeah.
in there.
Yeah. That's a great swim for a 19-year-old.
And it's only by a hundredth of a second.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's 100 seconds faster. He's fourth.
Yeah.
But again, for him being so young, this is a setup swim for his future.
Yes.
So the assumption is he's going to make Olympic finals. Well, obviously he's going to have finals. He's going to make the finals at the Olympic trials, and then
Mm-hmm.
he'll be going to put himself in a position. Hopefully, he'll come back to another Olympics, and that's kind of what you're going to see. Like Phoebe Bacon, when we talk about her, it's her second Olympics. She says that she's a completely different swimmer, and we're going to get into that shortly. But first,
Yeah.
we have the men's 50 freestyle, which comes to you by Josh's favorite event of the evening.
It was. It was.
What? Okay, so what did you think going into the race? What did you think Dressel's chances were? Did you think he was going to make a final?
I knew he was going to make a final. I mean, you like if he didn't make a final, it'd probably be the most talked about missed opportunity in the meet.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
he was it was is he gonna go, is he gonna be the top seed going into the final was what I was.
No, no, no. He was not going to be the top seed.
Well, but
100% he's not going to be the top seed.
that's what I was like, is he gonna be in lane 4 or is he gonna be in lane 3 or 5?
Nope. He came in fifth,
Yep.
obviously. I think making the final is what he needed to do, because then it just comes down to a splash and dash. And he
Well,
needed to get himself in that position.
yeah. And that is the one thing about the 50 free. It really doesn't matter what lane you're in for the 50, because
Right.
it's just going down. But you also got to make sure you're not, because we saw this yesterday, that if you aren't close, if you can't see the person that's pushing the race, you might miss out because you don't see what's happening.
Yeah, that's true. But I think in a 50 free, you're so locked into just getting there that you really can't pay attention whatsoever.
I don't know. I've never gone that fast like these
I've never
guys.
gone that fast. I do know that okay, so here's something that's a little bit crazy. If you go to the Olympic Training Center, they have a pulley system and you can set the time and they can pull you through the pool at the world record pace of the 50 free long course.
Ooh,
Now,
let's
you
go do
might be
that.
drowning by the end of it, but you can feel how fast it is that those men and women are going depending on which event you want to go with. It's absolutely
That
crazy.
that's pretty fun. That would be fun to do.
Okay, so is there anything about his race that you noticed that was kind of interesting about Dressel's race at all?
Ah, not right off.
Okay, so the one thing that I noticed is that he finished with his left hand.
Okay.
Okay, and normally I wouldn't say anything about it because at his level, he should be able to finish with both hands. But I find a lot of youth really cannot finish well on both sides. And if you look at his finish, he's on his side. He's finishing very well
Yes.
all the way through. But a lot of the times we'll have if I'm a youth swimmer, my right side I'll be able to roll a little bit better than I can on my left side. But on a 50 free and a 100 free, you can't really judge which hand you're going to come in with. And I've actually had kids that would short stroke one side to get into another to get into their right hand. So they
Which is
might
a bad
short stroke
habit.
on their left to get to their right because they feel a little bit better about that. And I'm not really sure how to teach that except for to make the swimmers aware of it. But I noticed that most of your swimmers are finishing on their right. He finished on his left there, got on his side, and it was really important
I wonder
for
if
him
he's
to do
left-handed.
that. The big surprise for me was Manadou from France coming in ninth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just he's in his twilight, as it were, and so making the final, I think, is what he wanted to do in front of France. I think it's going to be the same kind of situation with Ledecky in the next Olympics. I think she said, I want to swim in the U.S. I want to swim in L.A. And so she's going to come back. Now, I think that she'll be a factor still in 4 years. I don't know, at least in the 800 and the 1500. I don't know what kind of schedule she wants to put together. But if it wasn't there, if it was someplace else, this might be the swan song for Ledecky. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But she wants to hold on for another couple of years and she's enjoying it. So that's what basically Florent Manadou is doing as well. And it would have been nice to see him in a final,
Yeah.
which is pretty good. All
But
right.
I
So now
mean, he still
go
had a
ahead.
great swim at 21.6.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy how fast they're going. Compare that to the last Olympics. He's in the final.
Yeah.
Period. It's not even a question. He's probably mid pack there. So
Yeah.
all right. So next we have the women's 200 breaststroke.
Okay. Let me pull that up.
So women's 200 breaststroke was interesting to say the least. And
Okay.
I think, again, what are we talking about? Underwaters and turns, right? We're
Yes.
going to talk about how much better Kate Douglas was than Smith as far as the underwaters. And again, we like the Olympic size pool because it gives you a little bit more swimming. And the
Hmm.
and the turns, now we've gotten so good at the underwaters that we're able to maximize those and make it a fifth stroke. It's kind of like one time I got an opportunity to go to a NASCAR race and I sat on the pit row, and one of my buddies was the pit crew. Uh, uh, he was a car chief for one, and he was a crew chief for another. But anyways, he took me through the troller of all of their stuff, and he showed me the car, and I said, "Wow, you can see the aerodynamic on the top." And I said, "Wow, it's so slick underneath and clean." He goes, "Yeah, because we've already maximized the aerodynamics on top. Now we're trying to maximize the aerodynamics underneath." And
Yes.
one little cool thing, we're at Talladega and the wheels were sticking out about a quarter of an inch outside the fenders. So why is it sticking out? He goes, because when we go full speed, the centripetal force will pull that even. It'll bring it in a quarter of an inch, the side of the
Wow.
tire wall as you're coming through. And so similarly, we've maximized a lot of what we do on top of the water. If you go back to 1980, 1984, 1988, we used to like get up on top of the water because that's where you swim your fastest. Now we're starting to maximize the underneath, and the breaststroke is now, I think, the next frontier for that. And how we're going to do that, we've added in the dolphin kick, but I think that being tight underwater and the way that you bring your hands up underneath. If you watch these swimmers, a lot of the times our swimmers will bring them up just casually and they'll stop themselves. These swimmers are bringing them up really tight and being able to maintain their line as they go underneath. So, I mean, if you get to go up back and watch the event, obviously watch the underwaters. What were your impressions of the swim?
It's interesting to see how many people are like you're talking about, like going forward and working on the underneath. It's still interesting to see, like, even at the Olympic level, there are still people that I would say are going higher than I would expect at that level. Does that make sense?
So you mean whenever you're talking about Smith in particular? She's
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
up
yeah.
really, really.
Yeah,
Her
she's
and
coming
Nick
up.
Fink.
Yeah, like how high they're getting is like it almost feels. It feels like it would, talking about aerodynamics. It feels like it would stop their forward momentum. With how high they're coming up.
Well, what happens is obviously air is less resistance than water. So the more you can get out of the
Correct.
water, the better you're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
be. But really, what that comes down to, the height of how high you come out of the water is going to be based upon how your hips are moving. So as my hips move forward, that's going to pop me up higher. The closer my hand and my hips go, the higher I can get out of the water. Some are more comfortable. Marchand, for example, is a little bit lower in the water than Nick
Hmm.
Fink, who comes up really high. But what happens is as I bring my hips forward and I come up, there's a sticking point. And if I can get over that sticking point and get downhill, that's what I'm trying to do. So if I grab a lot of water and I come up really high, I can get my hips up higher and keep them at the surface a little bit better. If I'm a little bit lower in the water, as long as my hips are right at the surface, it doesn't matter how high my torso goes. And those swimmers, you'll notice, get out over the water and they're going to use their kick a little bit more. So it depends if you're
Okay.
using your kick more, if you're using your upper body, also the way that your body is built, and then just what feels comfortable for you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think breaststroke is the most idiosyncratic stroke or based on the individual's preferences and body shape than any of the strokes that we have. And
Yeah.
that's because it gives so much drag that it makes it really difficult.
Hmm.
So, so I thought that this was a really great race. Obviously, Kate Douglas gets gold.
Yep.
Again, she's long on the third turn coming out, and she's doing really, really well on that. The one thing that I would like you to look at is go back to the third turn, but instead of looking at the underwaters, look at the finishes. And I think Kate gets a little bit caught long there. So anyway, Smith comes in, makes the adjustment, and she comes into the wall, and she hits about where she normally does. And Kate Douglas has to really finish her kick and get into the wall. She's a little bit long. Now, does it give her a little bit of rest, but so she can work her underwaters a little bit better? I'm not sure. She still hit the wall well. She still turned pretty well, but just go back and look. The adjustment needs to be made before that point. The
Yeah.
adjustment needs to be made before that point. We say 5 yards out, as it
But
were.
I would say, like, because if she had seen it to where she saw it, like right going into the wall, if she'd made the micro skull pull right there,
Right.
she would have been
She
too
would have
balled
slowed
up.
down.
Yeah, it would have been worse. So she made the right choice for when she realized what was happening
Right. What she did was
about
she
going the
decided,
longer.
yeah, she decided to hold her line and maintain that momentum instead of trying to power in and get her hands where she feels a little bit more comfortable. And she's
Yeah.
still, again, if you're practicing that, if you're used to coming in long and short and all the other things, you can make those adjustments naturally. And
Mhm.
again, that's why we practice different types of turns.
It's like the thing, practice being comfortable with uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. And when we get to the 200 IMs, you're going to see a couple of guys make those kind of adjustments on the butterfly and then also on the breaststroke. So I
Right.
thought that was a really good race to watch. The other thing that I'd like to look at is Smith's tempo. Kate Douglas kind of she picks up her tempo on the final 25,
Yeah.
but you'll see the more rapid strokes from Smith, especially the last five, because she's fighting to try to get closer and closer, and she gets as close to a 100, almost a 50-yard sprint tempo than
Hmm.
Kate Douglas does because Kate's there. Now Kate picks it up and she's going better and faster, and she's getting closer to 100 tempo there, maybe even breaking into it. But if you watch Smith underneath, you can see the tempos. Kate, I think, started picking up her tempo a little bit sooner. I think Smith reacted to it, and then she just said, here's where is my sprint point. I'm going to go from here on out. And it just wasn't enough. And Kate
Yep.
Douglas is your Olympic gold medalist. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Let's take a break here.
Okay.
Pause for a second. So now let's take a look at the women's 200 backstroke.
Okie
Um,
dokie.
what were your thoughts about the 200 backstroke?
I was expecting to see a little bit faster tempos,
Okay, I can see that.
you know? And I thought everyone's underwaters were really good. And I was noticing that later in the race, the underwaters got longer as the race progressed. That was one of the first races I noticed it today was that. And then I went back and watched the butterfly again and then saw it happen there. I just wasn't
Right.
cognizant of it. But I don't know if it's because it was a semifinal, but I was really expecting a lot more faster tempos out of the people leading the pack, out of the ladies leading the pack.
Right. So here we have what we call semifinal number one and semifinal number two. The advantage of being the second semifinal is you can see how everybody else's race.
Correct.
Right. So you can kind of make a game plan. If they go this fast, this is how fast I need to go. If they go that fast, this is how fast I need to go. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of where we were. So you have Massey from Canada, you have Reagan Smith, and you have Phoebe Bacon in the first semifinals. So they have to get out and get after it.
Yeah, because
Right.
they don't know how semifinal two is going to go.
Right. And I think Phoebe Bacon is a great example. I think she had the strongest race. And you can say, well, Matt, she qualified first. Of course, she had the strongest race. Yeah, but I mean, tempo wise, she looked the most comfortable
Yes.
with turning it over and getting after it. She got out the fastest. She was out in 101.76, which is the fastest of any of the heats that we had. And then she came back and she was number one all the way through. And so she maintained that the whole way. Now, if it's going to be similar to the other races, we're looking at a almost 1.5 second drop is what's going to be needed for her to hold on to the first place. So if she goes 207, you're probably looking at you're going to have to break 206 to come back and win the race. Well, where does that put you? Well, 204.06 is the Olympic record, and the world record is 203. So if that's the case, and you're looking at McCowan, who broke another world record earlier, right? Or
Yep.
Olympic record. She didn't break the world record. She broke the Olympic. She got the gold
Yeah.
over Reagan Smith. So she's coming in, she can drop another 4 seconds. So again, is the pull slow or is it not slow? Are they holding back? Because I mean, if I'm 203, in 203, I did that back in 2023. So I did it March of last year. It's in my wheelhouse. So if I have a bad race, I'm going 205. If I have a comfortable race, I'm going 207 and I'm coming back second. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what she did. Reagan Smith is coming
Mhm.
back fourth.
Yep.
So no, fifth. So I mean, again, I think there's a lot to go there. I think you got to break 205 to win the gold medal. Somewhere in the 205s, low 205s would be pretty good. And I really like Bacon. I like Phoebe Bacon's chances
She
of
looked good.
medaling.
So I'm up at church and we're working on an event up here. And I'm surrounded by people that know nothing about swimming. So it's fun to watch swimming with people that don't know swimming.
Yes.
And I was watching it with a musician and I mentioned something about the tempo of Bacon. And then one of the guys was a drummer and he just like starts beating out like her rhythm versus the second place rhythm.
Oh, wow. That's
And,
pretty cool.
and she's like a half beat faster than everybody else.
Right.
Like he was just playing it on his leg, and you could hear how much faster Bacon's tempo was than everybody else's. And it was so noticeable that even people that don't know anything about swimming were like,
Right.
why are their arms so much slower than hers?
Well, a lot of it is they're stretching out and they're
Yeah,
getting a
yeah.
little bit more rotation. And she's a little bit more, her stroke to me looked like a hybrid between 100 and a 200. She's on her
Yes.
back, but she's also very compact. So it's a lot of body roll she's snappy, as it were,
Mhm.
where everybody else seemed to be really feeling it. You're going to see more of her kind of stroke in the final because they're going to have to turn it over. Then you're going to see a little bit longer, more rotating stroke. And I think that could either play to her benefit or it could be really detrimental. She's strong. That's the thing that I saw is that Phoebe Bacon looked strong. She never
Yeah.
suffered. She looked under control. She had the snap. She hasn't done as many races as some of the other swimmers have done. And it's her second Olympics. I really like her chances of being on the podium. I'm not saying she's going to beat McCowan and Smith by any stretch of the imagination, but she could be right there. And if
Yeah.
it comes down to 15 meters to go and she's feeling good, she could pull it out. But I
Yeah.
think that she can medal. I think McCowan can medal, and I think that Smith is going to medal. I think they're going to be your top swimmers. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to come down in the last 5 meters, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree.
All right, 200.
And
Oh, go ahead.
and just knowing that McCowan knew what she had to swim, I think she's well before she was a favorite in this event. But
Yes.
watching the semifinals, she knows she has this like if she has a good race, she's gonna be gold medals.
Yeah, I mean, she absolutely doesn't have to worry about it. She's in a position that she can actually kind of, again, it's a nice position to be in whenever you just say, if I just have a really good race, if I just do what I normally do and I have a good race, I don't make too many mistakes, I'm going to win the gold medal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think she's in that position. Is Reagan Smith scary? Yes. Reagan Smith can beat her. There's no doubt
Yes.
about it. But I think that it's going to come down to if she has a solid race, she should feel pretty good. I think Reagan Smith says, if I have a solid race, I'm going to win this thing too. And I don't think that the 100 is going to play into the mental because, again, Reagan Smith can go back and say, I'm the world record holder in the 100 backstroke. I know how to swim this. I'm more into the meet. There's a lot of positives that she has going in. I think it's Bacon that just has to say, I got to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I need them to slow down a little bit and then I can take advantage of it. But I think that I can be in the top three, and that should be her goal going in.
Yeah.
All right, men's 200 IM.
Woohoo.
We're back into the world of Leon Richard, right?
Yep.
He is he's killing it. It's not
Yeah.
even it's not even close.
I thought this was gonna be Ledecky and Dressel's games.
Yes. No, 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 no. I knew Marshawn was going to be there. Yeah.
What I mean, just not knowing international swimming, and I didn't watch much of the college championships last couple years. This
Right.
guy wasn't on my radar at all.
Yes. Yeah.
And
No, I mean, he's killed it in he's killed it in the NCAAs. There's no
yeah,
doubt about it. And I would say, he comes from France. He says to Bob Bowman, I want to swim for you. Bob says, you're great. Come on over. And they just created a new Michael Phelps in a
they
sense.
really did.
And to be able to do what he does, it's his world. The next Olympics is going to be his world, and then we'll see how long he can stay at powerhouse. But I was also surprised they mentioned on the broadcast today that he's 6'2", 170 pounds. Well, I'm 6 foot, like 200 pounds, and so I'm just like, wow. But he has a lot more muscle, obviously, and he's a lot
Yeah,
younger. But I thought he was bigger than that, just because of the size that you see him at. Again, it always surprises me because you see swimmers, especially collegiate swimmers, if you've ever been around, when they're on the deck, they look huge,
yeah,
absolutely jacked. You look at Dressel and some of these people, and you're going, the only one is Petey. He looks huge in clothes too. Okay, he
yeah.
looks like a linebacker no matter where he goes. But a lot of them, once they put on street clothes, you're like, you're skinny. They look a lot smaller in their street clothes than they do whenever they're wearing their swimsuits, just because
Uh,
of
we
how
were
tight they are, and you can see their muscles.
we were at a tier one of those sprint meets
Right,
at Bowls, and I was standing next to somebody on the elite team, and I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but he was just huge.
right.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. I wouldn't have told the story if I didn't think I could figure out the name fast enough.
That's
Oh well.
okay. It could have been Dressel. He was swimming there.
No, it wasn't Dressel because me and him were talking about tattoos while we're eating like Moe's earlier in the meet.
Okay, well that
But
works out.
I can't remember who it was. It was a 50 guy though. It wasn't Dressel. Oh well.
Anyways, no, I mean, but you get next to those guys and they're huge, and then you find out what their sizes are, and you're like, okay, no wonder they're swimmers. But I mean, he's powerful. Now, the thing that caught my attention here, from a coach's point of view, is go back and watch Carson Foster's breaststroke going into the third turn. Again, here's our theme. Watch the third turn. Watch the third turn. He makes the adjustment on breaststroke, and he makes it about
Yes.
5 meters out. And he takes a big stroke, takes a small stroke, takes a big stroke into the wall. And within that 5 yards, he goes large, small, large, and then he hits the wall at full speed, and he comes out absolutely killing it. Obviously, I mean, he does really well. He wins this
He
heat.
had a fantastic turn.
Yeah, but the adjustment, look at how
Mhm.
he's doing the adjustment, and start trying to teach your kids, swimmers, take a look at that and see if you can start making adjustments. And if you have a turn where you come up short or you're a little bit long, say, okay, what did that look like? I need to make that adjustment, and start trying to make adjustments earlier in the 25, or if you're in 25-yard pool, or a 50 if you're in a 50-meter pool, and try to time out and see if you can start learning how to do those adjustments, because that's what they do. The second thing that I noticed is that Duncan Scott, so
Yeah.
he finished on a side. Like he absolutely, it's the same heat. He's 2 lanes below Cost Foster. You can see him. He comes in and comes in third because he finishes on his side very, very well.
Yeah.
Everybody's finished on their side, but I see him go here. They're not fully extended. He's the most fully extended that I see there. And that's one thing that we always got to remind ourselves of is that we got to finish all the way on our side. And I think it's a textbook chance there.
Yeah. I mean, he got third because of that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Like he would have been looking at it. He definitely would have been
He
fourth or
might have been
fifth.
safe there, but there was a fourth place guy that was pretty close.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was less than a tenth between him and fourth.
Right. And so you're talking about if he takes another stroke, he's fourth or fifth.
Yeah,
If he doesn't, if he stops and glides in, but
he's
instead by
fourth.
rotating, he uses his full height. And it's
Yeah.
something that I think swimmers could look at. And then Cassis comes in ninth. I think he just overswam the first
Mhm.
half and just kind of got left behind a little bit at the end, a little bit
Yeah.
tired. But it was nice to see, like everybody said, it was nice to see him at the Olympics doing well, making the semifinals. He was hoping
Mm.
to make the finals. He probably should have, but you got to swim the race that's there. And I'm not going to knock anybody that makes the Olympics on the U.S.
No.
national team by any stretch of the imagination. All right, so that brings us to the end. Relay time.
What?
Women did great.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely crushed it. They were 4-second underdog to Australia. Nobody was going to touch Australia. And Aaron
No,
Gibble holds off China and comes in second.
but I was hoping. I
You
was
always hope.
hoping. Yeah. I mean they had a great race. Like Ledecky leading off.
She didn't lead off. She came in third. Weinstein led off. She went 154.8, which is her best time. Madden went 155.6. Ledecky comes in next, and then Aaron Gemmel goes, I think Ledecky went 154-ish, 155 low, and then Aaron Gemmel goes 155.8 and holds off China. But
That's right.
the first two swimmers were way, way ahead
Yeah.
of where we thought they were going to be, and that's where we made up the seconds. Ledecky was solid, and she brought it back almost even. And then you have Titmus versus Gemmel. That's not going to be close. You have a young swimmer versus probably one of the best freestylers in the world. I mean, definitely the best freestylers in the world. She's a gold medalist in the 400
Yeah.
freestyle, but
Yeah.
she held her own.
I hate how they like give the results because they're not accurate.
No, they're not. You can change up the order, right? So you can
Yeah.
change things around just a little bit. And so you're kind of looking at, yeah, if anybody
I knew
downloads,
Ledecky.
Go to Swimming World and download the finals, and it's all over the place. It's not the order that you see or the schedule.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why they do that.
Because I'm using it as a reference to what I saw, and I was
Right.
like, and it has Ledecky first, and
Yes.
as soon as I said it, I was like, she didn't swim first.
No, she didn't. But I mean, that's how they fill out the relay
Some
cards. That's
results.
how they'll make the adjustments later on, of course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They
But
probably just kept it in order and just changed the times to make it right. I'm not sure. But I mean, again, Ledecky makes the 13th medal. That's the most of any female Olympian.
yeah,
It cements her as right now the best female swimmer of all time. She still has another Olympics in her, I'm sure. That's what she's aiming for. If all things work out, she'll be there. And I think she'll be a favorite, at least in the mile, if not the 800. I mean, she's going to do well in the 800 here. She should win it, walking away. But I was proud of the women. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely, they did the job that they were supposed to do, and they held on to silver, which is gold or silver in any of the relays against Australia is good for me.
and they got closer than what was expected of them, which is always what you want to do when there's a clear blown out favorite.
Right.
You want to go, well, we might not get there, but we're going to get as close as we possibly can.
Yes, and I want to, and that's how we did it in the last relay, the 4x100 freestyle relay. We did the same thing, 4x200 freestyle relay. I
Yep.
can't wait for the 4x100 medley relay because I think that we should be a favorite there. Whether we are on paper or not, we are killing it. I think with Husk in the 100 fly, you have Reagan Smith
Yes.
in the 100 backstroke, you have Douglas in the 100 breaststroke, and then they might throw. I don't know who they're going to throw on the end of that. Let them figure it out because Husk is going to be. She could do either the freestyle or the butterfly, but the coaches are going to have to figure out where they want to put everybody.
Yeah, and talking about how young all these people are,
They're all coming back.
LA is going to be nasty.
Yeah, it should be really good.
Yeah.
And then you still we left some people that, could final. We have the 100 breaststroker, can't think of her name right now, but she won the gold medal last time. And she didn't make the team. She could make the team and still be strong there as well. I mean, there's a lot of people like that that were left off that can come back and do really
Mhm.
well.
Yep.
All right, so let's take a look to the future, which would be tomorrow morning. They're going to start off with the
Okay.
men's 100 butterfly. Thomas Hellman is going to be coming in top 8 coming in. I think he is 8th coming in. And then you have Caleb Dressel, who is coming in 4th. So a
Yep.
50.19 for Dressel, and Hellman is going to be 50.8. So there, I mean, again, everything's going to be right there. It's going to be really close. The interesting thing is, I didn't look at the schedule, but I think the 100 butterfly might be before the 50 free. I'm hoping the 50 free is first for Dressel, but they didn't have the schedule. I couldn't find the schedule before we came to broadcast. So that would be interesting to see which way that goes. Both of them are going to make semifinals. I'm not even worried about it. They're going to have to go 51-ish, under 51, and to solidify what they need to do. But I think they're going to be absolutely there. It's not
According
going to
to
be a
the
problem.
broadcast times, the
So that's the schedule if you have that.
yeah. So what are we asking? The butterfly is at 5 a.m. our time.
No, I'm talking about the finals.
Okay. Well, but we have the 100 butterfly heats.
Yeah, that's going to be at 5 a.m. I'm talking about
Yeah.
the finals because he's going to have the 50 freestyle final.
Yeah, which is at 2:30.
Okay, so that's going to be first.
Yeah.
Good. So he'll get the 50 freestyle and then he'll come back and do the 100 butterfly, which will be really
Yes.
good for him.
Yeah.
That'll get him warmed up and ready to go, which will be nice.
Mhm.
Next, you have the 200 IM for the women. Obviously, you have Kayla McCowan is going to be there. Kate Douglas is going to be there. Alex Walsh, the other Walsh sister, is going to be there. I say other in parentheses because they're both great. They're both made the Olympic team.
Yeah. How
It-
awesome is that?
yeah, it's pretty good. And it's like I think there's 2 sibling groups that are there as well. And then you
Yeah.
also have, I mean, there's so many mixtures because Nick Fink is married to Margalis, formerly
Mhm.
Melanie Margalis, and then Robert Margalis was there. And then you have Aaron Gimmel is Andrew Gimmel's sister. Aaron Gimmel is Aaron, brother and sister. Let's just put it that
Yeah.
way. So, anyways, we have that going on. Both of them are going to make it back. Not even worried about that. I want them to have good swims. I want them to put themselves up where they need to be. And then you have the 800. Kate Ledecky is going to run away with that one. I would like to see Madden make it back. But then again, you also have Titmus is back. And so that should be pretty good. But I think Ledecky wins that. I mean, she's up by 6 seconds on the next closest person, and that is not Titmus. Titmus is the third person.
Now the 800 is just going to be semifinals, finals,
Right.
correct?
So you have to be top 8.
Yep.
You're gonna have to be top 8. And right now, Paige is 7th. So
Okay.
that should be pretty good going into that. And then you have the men's 100 mixed medley. The mixed
Is that
400 medley relay.
when did that
So
happen?
this is it. This is the first time at the
Okay.
Olympics. So we have the mixed relay. So that should be pretty good how we're going to put that all together. And I'm excited to see that happen. But yeah, it says mixed 400 medley relay. And of course, the US is sitting pretty there. China's in first, Australia's in second. The US is in third. China has a 338.57. The US has 340.19. And again, it takes forever. If you have ever had to do a mixed relay, it takes forever. It's not cut and dry. There's a lot of calculations that you have to do there, but it's absolutely fun for the
What?
fans. And I really think it's fun for the swimmers and the coaches to kind of figure it all out.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I've never done one actually to have a competitive race. It's always been about like, let's have a fun race.
Right. So I
So
was at zones, and so I had a lot of the assistant coaches figuring out the mixed relays. And so the coaches of each the male and female got together and they had to figure it out. And one time, like one of our coaches, Bobby, came up and he's like, I need your opinion on this. And I looked at it, he goes, okay, if we do this, we're +4. If we're this, we're minus 3.5. And he just had it, where do we go? Where do we go? And it's just math. You figure out that your best swimmer, female swimmer compared to male swimmer, is going to be how much of a difference, and you just work your way through it. And so you would find that you would think that the freestyle and the backstroke would be very close. The long axis strokes would be closer together than the short axis strokes, which is a little bit more power. this is 11 to 14 years old. That was not always the case. But you go into that assuming that. I would go into that assuming that for this relay. But then again, you just never know, because if you have somebody who's breaststroker, you have a Kate Douglas who's really kind of close to a men's time, only a couple seconds off. Whereas in 100 freestyle, you may not be that close, even though you have Husk that can go really, really
Yeah.
fast. Again, it can get really complicated. I'm glad. I mean, I would love to have been an Olympic coach. There's no doubt about it, but I'm glad I'm not making that decision on that level with so many eyes watching, as it
Would you
were.
see if this goes well? Would you see this kind of trickle into age group swimming?
It is. It's already in age group swimming. It's already all the way up. You find it in age group swimming. We have it at our state meets. We have it at our sectional meets, and it's moving up, just like the kind of movement for 50 fly, 50 back, and 50 breast is starting to move forward toward the Olympics from the World Championships forward. You also
Okay,
have the mixed relays in the World Championships. So what you're trying to find here is, if it really works here, it's probably here to stay. And
that makes sense.
I think everybody loves it. I think it's a challenge, and I think it's legit. It's kind of like whenever they decided to start doing synchronized diving. People are like, well, that's kind of a gimmick. That's kind of what we did at practice just to kind of goof around. Well, it's serious now. In 2008, that's, I think, the first time that they did it. And you have Chris Colwell and his partner. They ended up fourth for the U.S. because each of the coaches said to the divers, hey, you need to slow. One, they said you need to slow up. The other one, you need to speed up, to try to match each other. But there wasn't a lot of communication. And so they were off their rotations on the last dive and ended up coming in fourth. But it was brand new. So now we know how to communicate it. And in a sense, it's been going on for a couple of years at World Championships and other places. So I think they have a feel for what this should look like. And I think it's going to be an entertaining, fun race, because it's going to be, again, it's a chess match. It's kind of like the IM, but on steroids, no pun intended. And I don't mean that in any way, shape, or form toward the Olympics or any of the athletes. But the gaps are going to be changing so much quicker and
Yeah,
so much better. It's going to be a lot more exciting. And I can't wait to hear Rowdy Gaines, because he's going to lose his mind.
yeah, and
Absolutely lose his mind as they goes through. But I'm sure he has all the calculations. He does a good job at that.
yeah, he's phenomenal at what he does.
Yes. Yes. So, anyways, we'll check it out tomorrow. Thanks for co-hosting.
Thanks for having
And
me.
I think Jen will be back tomorrow. And so, if
It'll be
maybe you
better
will.
tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But anyways, I'll talk to you later, and thanks for coming on.
Bye.